put in the chat why you think there are two documents per se that you need to apply for a job. Just a couple words. Why is there a job application and a resume?
Okay, I'm waiting for that feedback here to come up in the chat. It looks like someone says the application is HR specific. Someone else says the application has personal information on it. Some jobs require just a resume, personal data and work history. It gives detailed overview of the applicant's qualification and experience. The resume equal work experience. The application is a company record. The resume is a highlight of your skills that you provide.
Great. Yeah, a lot of great answers. Yeah, the resume is your marketing tool, right? And that has basic information on it. And the application, which is now usually online, is a way for the company to collect that information. Many times you upload a resume and that will autofill many of the cells on the application form. It is always important to go back and edit. But the important thing about an application is that you read the instructions carefully. Even if you filled out hundreds of applications, read the instructions carefully. How many people have filled out more than 5 applications since they've been looking for a new opportunity? Yeah, right. And have you found that any of those applications are exactly the same? Has anybody found any of the applications they found out? No. Yeah. They're similar, but they're not the same. Right. It's very important not to assume. We all have heard what assume stands for. And you don't want to be that person. You read the directions carefully. You fill it out completely. If something isn't applicable and you would leave it blank, you can always put in NA, because that's part of the process of the applicant tracking system, is to make sure that you filled in all necessary cells, right? You need to remember that this application and your resume are your first impressions with the company, right? So that's why it's really important to fill out the application entirely and to read all the questions. You also need to keep in mind that you need to be organized. I would say 99% of the time when you're on a company site, they require you to register. So that means you have to have a username, you have to have an email, and you have to have a password, right? So you need to come up with a system for tracking that. Part of that system is also keeping track of what resume you submitted, what cover letter you submitted, when you applied, is there any follow-up? So you need to figure out how you can best organize this information. Everybody organizes differently. Some people do it electronically in Excel or a Word document. Some people do it with paper, note cards, actual pieces of paper, a notepad. Even OneNote is a good place to keep track of something, but it's a lot of information. And if you're going to be applying consistently for 5 or more jobs a week, you need some way to organize it and keep track. Because again, most of the sites ask you to register. So that's a username, that's a password, that's an email. And if you get a call back wanting someone to interview you, you want to know what resume and cover letter you submitted. So make sure that you have a way of tracking that, whatever way makes sense to you. And I cannot overemphasize the importance of reading the instructions.
There's one question.
Okay.
The question is, what if an online application asks for a driver's license and the job does not require it?
So there's no driving required with the job. You can put in NA if you and see what happens. Lana, do you know if that's a legal question to ask? I've never been asked that before.
It's not categorized as an illegal question.
Okay. Yeah, so if you don't have a driver's license, put in an A. If you have a driver's license, you need to decide what you're going to do.
You know what, Sandra? I was thinking that because employers do have some positions that requires driver's license, it's probably part of their standard application. And so you're correct. If it doesn't apply to the particular job and which one is applying for, they would just put in NA. So say somebody's working for FedEx and FedEx
Right.
requires driver's license for some people, but maybe you're going to be a receptionist. It will still ask for it, but it will be NA in that case.
Right, because it's one application for everybody in the company. Yep. All right, so the application is important. That's what the company uses to move your information into the applicant tracking system, right? And that many times is an autofill when you upload your resume. But your resume doesn't have all the information that an applicant tracking system is asking for. So make sure you go through and check every cell and make sure that you read all the directions carefully. So we're going to talk about a resume that you can use to upload to an applicant tracking system. Applicant tracking systems, there are many and they vary, but that's how companies screen applicants or just collect information. The state of Minnesota uses an applicant tracking system, but it's not used to screen out applicants. Everybody who applies for a state job, their resume and cover letter is read. All right, but a resume, if you want to, it's relevant information where you provide evidence of how you accomplish tasks. Everything on the resume needs to add value. A resume is a marketing tool. That's the most important thing to do. And we're going to learn about understanding key resume basics, knowing resume sections, the importance of targeting, understanding formatting choices, knowing what an accomplishment statement is, and the importance of sending a cover letter. So those are things that we will cover. All right. So there are many different strategies. If you Google most perfect resume to get my dream job, you will get hundreds and thousands of opinions, right? We are providing what we view as the best practice and their opinions, right? The bottom line is you have to be comfortable with it, with your resume, because it sells you. And know that there's different standards in different industries. And so that you can Google and you can ask. All right. So we'll come back to the cover letter, which was one of the questions that just came back up. But yeah, the bottom line is this is your resume and you need to be comfortable with it, right? And if I say something that you disagree with, That's perfectly okay. It's just the best practice as we at the deed see it. But also, if you try something and you're not getting any interview requests, then try something else. That's the beauty of electronics, right? It's easy to change a resume. It's easy to tweak stuff. So you need to just make sure that it reflects you and you're comfortable with it, right? So, resume. You can use this as an easy way to remember. It reviews your qualifications for the job that you're submitting the resume to. It provides essential information, not your whole life history or your whole work history. It's skill based. They want to know what you're bringing to your new position. It has to be unique. What makes you different? What makes you special? It's definitely a marking tool. It's an effective way to get noticed. And again, it's specific to the job. So you need to keep it brief because it's a preview of coming attractions. The main purpose of the resume is to get an interview. Yes, Lana? I can't hear you. You're muted.
Thank you. Sorry. There's a couple of questions. I did leave out the one for cover letter because I know that's coming up. Nevertheless, there's an additional question that says if you already submitted a resume for a job but haven't received a reply, should you tweak it and resubmit it?
No, no, you should not. Just let it go and apply for other jobs. One of the things that I recommend, so put in the chat, how many of you think working on your resume is a fun activity? When you get out of bed and say, oh, today I'm going to spend working on my resume. Right. So my suggestion, because one of the things in the previous slide, right? So we talked about specific targeted for each job. So does that mean that you have to do a completely new resume for each job? No, that does not mean that. What I recommend is a master resume. You sit down, favorite beverage, some snacks, have your different places of employment going back 10 to 15 years, and just brainstorm, right? Everything that you did that you think you're proud of, that add it to the bottom line in each of those jobs. And you don't have to spell it correctly. Grammar, punctuation doesn't have to be correct. Just brainstorm all the tasks that you did. Because sometimes when you think about what you did for job A, you're reminded of what you did for job C or job B. So just sit and brainstorm. It can go on ad nauseum, 4 or 5 pages, who cares? Then go back and flush it out. Check for grammar, spelling, punctuation, and accomplishment statements, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Make sure that those are all there. Have 1 or 2 people read it. One of the things you can also do, I'll show you in a little bit, is you can have Word read it to you. So you have this master resume that might go on forever. And then when you get a posting, you see a job that you want to apply for, you copy your master and you get rid of everything that's not talked about in the job posting. Anything that is not a required qualification or a preferred. One of the issues older workers have, seasoned workers have, people with experience, is they want to show off. They want to show off their value. And sometimes that reads old, sometimes that reads you'll get bored, sometimes that reads you're going to just work here for a little bit and you're going to leave. You just want to address what they're looking for. But if you sit down and crank out your master, then it's really easy to copy and make it work for whatever posting that you're applying for. Also, you need to maybe tweak the language. So you might have said customer and the posting says client. There are multiple ways of saying project management. You need to make sure that your resume that you submit for whatever job, it reflects the language of the job posting, because specifically targeted for the job means that you talk their language and you're showing how you make the qualifications, both preferred and required. All right. But you want to keep it brief. You want it to be 2 pages. And there's a way of organizing the information to make sure that its visual impact is there, because this is actually a picture of somebody looking at a resume as a recruiter reading the resume, right? They read the summary, they read your skills, and then they go over the professional experience. If you noticed in the bottom left, this big chunk of text is not read. You have to set up your resume for speed reading, right? The only purpose is to generate interviews. It's not to get your life story out there. So you want to make sure that you have white space, that it's read, right? So this is a resume with a lot of writing that's not getting a lot of reading. This is a resume on the right side that has white space, has short, simple sentences, and that's read from top to bottom. So Lana, I saw some questions.
Absolutely. It looks like someone says, can you say again what areas that they focus on when reading?
So this is a
Did somebody ask?
comparison. What? I'm sorry. Go on.
And then the next question is, how far should you go back in years?
So only 10 to 15 years. This is a comparison of two different resumes, or one person's resume presented 2 different ways. And so where it's red, that's where the I spent the most time on, right? So you notice on the resume on the left, nobody ever looked on the bottom here. The same information is presented on the right, and you can notice that the eyes landed all over the resume. There was a lot of time spent on education. There was a lot of time spent on the first experience and the summary statement for that experience. But the whole resume, because of white space and short, simple sentences with bullet points, was read. So that's what's important. I don't know. I can't answer if AI is using, companies are using AI to delete or not look at resumes. The applicant tracking system is an artificial intelligence type program. And if you don't have keywords that are required, that are stated in the posting, your resume will be not deleted, but not looked at. Huh. I have heard recently, so it was always thought that you should submit your resume as a PDF. I have talked to a couple recruiters at different companies, and the AI is so sophisticated, it's better to submit it as a Word document versus a PDF, because the PDFs get scrambled more than the Word document. I have heard that from people. Is there anything that we should talk about before we continue, Lana?
Well, there's someone that's saying that you mentioned to go back 10 to 15 years, but they've worked with 5 companies over a period of 40 years, and 20 years of my experience was a different industry and different skills. So I'm guessing they're asking about that question about going back 10 to 15 years.
So they want to go back more?
Well, if someone worked at a company, one individual company for more than 15 years, they definitely would include that organization in their entire time frame.
Right. Right. And what one can do, because one probably had different positions, is to have one header, the company and the total time frame, and then have the different positions with the time, the start and end date that you were there. So. Whoa, I didn't mean to do that. Interesting. Okay.
There are questions in reference to the dimensions, the margins, and I think that will come up. So just want you to know that it's there. We will get around to that one though.
Okay. All right. So you want to make it scannable, right? Use bold or capital letters to highlight information. You avoid italics, underline borders, lines across the page, text boxes, graphics, or colors. You can also use small caps if you know what that is. Right. But you do not want to get overly fancy with your formatting. You want to make it simple. Not all applicant tracking systems are so touchy, but you don't know and you don't want to take a chance. You can do some research to see, but it's best to use a sans serif type, like Arial is one of them. So choose a format. The top third of the resume is the most valuable. So that's your name, your phone number, your email address. That's your professional summary. It's no longer called an objective statement. It's a way to add in some uniqueness of who you are to your resume, and the skill section. They will, if they like your skills, they'll see where you got them and how you applied them, and they'll read the rest of the resume. Make sure that whatever you do is error-free. So have 1 or 2 people read it. When we read what we read over and over again, we sometimes we don't see it. One of the things you can do is, if you have Word, and I don't know if you can do this in Google or not, is that you can have Word read to you. Sorry. So in the search bar, which so in the search bar, you put in read out loud. And then word will read to you. So sometimes having something read back to you helps you find errors, especially in tense or plurals. Right. And also reviewing the document in reverse order from bottom to top helps. It's always good to have somebody read it and look at it, somebody that you trust to read it and look at it. But make sure that your resume is error-free. That's an automatic delete or throwing it out because a lot of places get 100, 200, 300 applications, and it's an easy elimination point. So you want to make sure that your resume is error-free. So resumes can be formatted in a variety of ways: chronological, functional, or combination. It's best to upload a chronological resume into the applicant tracking system. So any website that asks you to upload your resume, it's better if it's chronological. It's a lot less editing. A functional or skill-based resume might be a great resume to take to a job fair for recruiters to look at. And then a combination is both of them. But you want to choose the format that tells your best story. The most important thing is to remember to target the job that you're applying for. So chronological is, the professional summary, the skills, and then your employment history, starting with the most recent, going in reverse order. They should always have months as well as years. And a lot of places actually ask for the date that you started. It's really important when applying for a government job that you have the month, day, and year. If you don't know that, you can go back to your tax records if you have them, or you can call the HR department. You can also approximate, but you want to make sure that you state in the text box that you can fill in that your start and end dates are approximation. Your resume becomes a legal document once you apply for a job. One of our colleagues was working for private industry. After an individual had been at that company for a year, they found a significant untruth in their resume that would not have even gotten them an interview. The person was stellar in their job, was a top performer, but they found this error in their resume and they were fired. Not only were they fired, but the company were so concerned that they went back 10 years and checked everybody's resume. So just remember, your application and your resume are legal documents, right? You are saying that this is true, and you can lose your job for no other reason than a falsehood in your application or your resume. A functional resume lists highlight qualifications. It lists your accomplishments in groups, and then it lists the employers by name, organization, the name of the organization, city, state, and where you were when you worked there. A combination is a combination of both. So the basic parts of the resume is the header, right? You don't necessarily need city, state, but you need your phone number and an email. And if your LinkedIn profile is up to date, include that. You need a professional email address. I've seen email addresses, hubba at cute little girl at big man about town at. Those are not professional email addresses. You need a professional address. You can get a free email at Google. So it's worth just getting an email for your job hunting. That way you won't lose anything. I think numbers can be used. Yes, numbers can be used in email addresses. Right. But yeah, you want a professional one. And I highly, highly, highly recommend an email specifically for job searching because that way nothing gets lost. And that is really important because somebody might email you information. Oh, we would love to interview you. But if it's lost in all the muck that comes into your other email address, that won't happen. And yes, the number should not reflect a birth date because that's one of the things that hackers know people do, and they can use that to hack you. Also, make sure that your voicemail is professional. I've called people who have said, "Hi, how are you? Oh, sorry, I'm gone. Maybe I'll get back to you. Ha ha ha." Or, "This is the big man. Please leave a message for this big man," right? "Hello, thank you for calling. I will get back to you as soon as possible." Make sure that your voicemail message is professional. Make sure your voicemail is set up. Make sure that your voicemail box is not full. I've called many people and have not been able to leave a message because their voicemail box is either not set up or full, right? So, professional voicemail message, mailbox set up and not full, and a professional email address. Your LinkedIn user URL should not include numbers. Unlike your email address, it should not include numbers, and that will be covered in the social media workshop. Next is the professional summary, right? It also should talk about how your skills apply to the job that you're applying for. What makes you uniquely qualified for this position? But short, sweet. Any sentence that is so long that you don't remember what you read when you started the sentence is way too long, right? It needs to be a short, sweet, no more than 3-sentence paragraph. And then your professional experience, right? And the bullet points need to be accomplishment statements, which we'll cover in just a bit. Right? So, what are your qualifications? And then your education. You do not need the dates of your education unless it's fresh, unless it's 2 or 3 years. Otherwise, don't put in the date that you graduated. You might not even need to put in what your degree is in if it's not applicable to the position that you're applying for, right? I have a bachelor's of science in design, but that isn't important for what I'm doing, right? I can design really pretty resumes and I can do really nice flyers. But my experience in doing this job is from previous jobs and other training that I've gotten along the way. So even though the application itself asked for what my degree is in, it is not on my resume. All right. And it might also include military experience, volunteer experience, leadership, professional memberships, awards, recognition, and training. So somebody asked about margins, Lana. So my opinion is 1/2 inch on the top, 3/4 of an inch on the bottom, and no less than 1/2 inch on the side. Do you have another opinion about that?
No, I do have some other questions I was waiting to get to. Somebody was asking about, can you confirm the bullets, should it be replaced with by dashes now? And then there's one more thing.
I would use bullet points. Oh,
Okay. All right, then the next question is, well, this one wasn't one of my questions. but I'll go ahead and throw this one in and say, what is the difference from telling a lie versus using their keywords from the job posting? I would love to.
From telling a lie is an untruth. And if you're using their language to explain your experience, that's not a lie. You're just wordsmithing. But
Yeah.
everything on a resume needs to be true to you and your experience.
Perfect. There was one other question. And it was about the bullets, and then it was about, oh, I know what it is. I don't see it, but I do recall it. It's should you put your skills on the top or the bottom?
I would put them on the top. Do you have an opinion about that?
Generally, I know that people do place the skills on the top, and they're okay to be up there as long as if we don't overdo it. But in some instances, people put it at the bottom because it's a reiterations of your skills. But so
Right. So the skill, when you list your skills, they're short, right? You could maybe say Microsoft 360, data entry, project management. And then when you list in your experiences, your accomplishment statements say how you use those. The skills that you list should be addressing what's required in the job posting. So let the job posting be your guide. In your master resume, you might have 25, 30 skills, right? But when you're applying for a job, not all of those skills will be necessary. So that's another place where you can edit. All right, so what is an accomplishment statement? Yes, we will be sending out the PowerPoint. An accomplishment statement answers the question, so what, right? If you have as one of your bullet points under an experience, data entry, anybody can do data entry, right? How many people know of a former coworker who did similar jobs to you, but maybe didn't do it accurately or thoroughly, right? How many people know people who can do something but can't do it well? Say yes or no in the chat. Yeah. Yep. Right. So, and you wouldn't want to hire somebody like that, right? If you were a hiring manager. And so that's what accomplishment statements do. They let future employers know what you did for the bottom line of wherever you worked to have a return on investment. So one could say accurately entered records into 1,000, you know, 1,000 client database, accurately or efficiently tracking important information for a sales team. If you cannot use numbers, and percentages are really great numbers to use, or like in percentage increase or percentage decrease, because some of that information might be proprietary or private to the company, use adjectives and adverbs, right? You use an action verb with an adjective or an adverb to make an accomplishment statement. But your bullet points, all of them or more than half, need to answer the question, so what, right? So here are two bullet points. Somebody kept in inventory and someone called customers. So pick one of those and write an accomplishment statement. How, make up numbers or whatever, but pretend that that's a bullet point on your resume. How would you make that an accomplishment statement? When you have it written, please put it in the chat. Thank you. Anybody else? Cool. Great. So here are, managed daily inventory of over 1,000 classifications of medical supplies. There's a number, there's a specific thing. Grew client base from 0 to 70 within 2 months. How did you do that? By effectively using cold call techniques. So maybe one of your skills was cold call techniques, right? So now I would like you I'll give you a minute to think of one of the bullet points on your resume. And how would you change that to an accomplishment statement? You don't have to, you can put it in the chat if you want, or you can just write it down. But I'm going to give you a minute. And I want you to think of a specific bullet point on your resume. And I want you to try to turn it into an accomplishment statement. Wow, very good. Cool. Great. So now I want to show you another tool that will help you. Great stuff. Great stuff. So one can use ChatGPT. One should never use this carte blanche from what it does. But if you want, you can put in, so you can say, what keywords are missing from my resume for this position? So you can put in your resume and then put in the position. So these are keywords that this particular AI thinks that I can do to improve my resume. Employers know that that people use AI for resumes and stuff like that. You want to just use it as a framework to improve or to check, but you don't want to use it carte blanche, copy and paste, because remember, your resume reflects you. So AI is artificial intelligence, and it is a way of generating ideas what it does is it scrapes the web and comes up with suggestions. These are just suggestions, and there are many different apps that are AI. This is just one thing. And one of the things that I've learned using this particular one is you can copy here what it says, but you don't get the formatting. So you need to copy what's on the page, copy it, and then paste it. And you can copy this after it's highlighted by doing Control C. And then when you go to a Word document, if you do Control V, you can paste. So did I generate more questions, Lana? I can't hear you. You're muted.
No, there's no other questions. There's
Okay,
something in here,
yeah.
but it's not directly related to that. Somebody said something about, what about the trick of putting words in a white space so it could be pick up by AI? That wasn't by AI, by the way, that was ATS.
Yes.
And we don't recommend you do that.
Don't do that. People know you do that. Don't do that. Right? Make sure that your resume is talking the same language as the job posting. Right? Make sure that you're using their keywords. So if you had a choice and you were applying for a job and you could submit either a cover letter or a resume, which would you prefer doing? Put it in the chat. Do you want to work on the resume or the cover letter? All right. So, what is so scary about a cover letter, folks? Why don't you like doing cover letters? All right. What's scary about a cover letter? Put in the chat why you don't. Right.
I'm sure you're saying this, but some people are saying that they don't know how to write the cover letter, don't know what to put in it. Somebody say they like doing both. It affords you opportunity to highlight different things. It takes time to think and to write. I'm scared of a cover letter, but the resume has more value. Feel like it can't encompass as much more.
Cool. All right. So yeah, the cover letter is a necessary evil. I worked for Lehigh Harris, which is an outplacement firm that companies hire to help people that they're laying off get new jobs. It deals from C-suite down, and we always had a panel of HR people from the Fortune 500 companies that were in the Twin Cities. So it was a panel of maybe 6 or 7 people. Half of them said they didn't read resumes. Half of them said they did, but they all said that they noted that it was submitted. Not all applications give you that option, and then you don't need to worry. Some people include it in the same document with their resume, which is fine. If there's an opportunity to upload other documents, which could be a cover letter or a cover letter specifically, you need to upload the cover letter. There's a great explanation of cover letters on careerforcemn.com. If you put into the search cover letter, it should come up. If it doesn't come up, put in resume and then scroll down to the bottom of the page, and it will give you a link to cover letters. There's different techniques for doing it. It goes into great detail. We'll just cover some of it. A cover letter should include your intent for the job. So you put down in the first paragraph that you're applying for this specific job and why you're interested, why you're a good match. Include a thank you and say that you will be following up. This is optional, but it's always good to say, I'm looking forward to talking more about my qualifications. It's a way to add other information that didn't fit on your 2-page resume. It's a great way to restate your interest and say how you are uniquely qualified for the job. It's a necessary evil, folks. Right? So I would go on.
There's a question about, what about the letter of recommendation?
You only give those if they're asked. Right? That comes later. as well as references. If you noticed on all of the resume formats, we did not include references. References are given when asked and not before that. All right, so we have about 10 minutes. I just want to put in a plug for your local career force office. People there are qualified, love to talk to people, want to help. So please, there's nothing better than getting a resume review at your career force and getting another set of eyes on it, getting other opinions, helping you maybe deal with a break in employment or a lot of jobs in a short period of time. Those are all very personal things, and they can help you with that at your local career force. All right, Lana, what you got?
Couple of questions. One question is, what is the difference between Career Force MN and MinnesotaWorks.net?
So careerforcemn.com is where you learn about classes. There's a lot of information about resumes, interviewing. It's a very robust website. I'll bring it up in a minute. MinnesotaWorks.net is where you register for the workshops, where you can post your resume and there's jobs listed on there. Did I miss anything?
That's about it. Well, MinnesotaWorks.net, they can look for jobs, and then there's employers. That's a possibility that the employers can find them as well, and it allows them to post their resume and do job search by it as well. But that's it. Trying to get to this next question. Okay, let me know you want the next one.
Yeah, here's careerforcemn.com. It's a great website. If you put in resume, which is what we've been talking about, it gives you more information. Can you see yeah, you can see it, okay. It gives you a whole bunch of information about the resumes. It gives you examples with samples filled in. It also talks about cover letter references, things like that. Is a great thing. It has part of the online tools are skill assessments and interest assessments. Doing those might give you words that you can use. One of the options under resumes, you can get a list of, it can get help targeting your resume. You can attend other workshops. Okay, Lana, next question.
Okay, somebody said, what if they ask for references?
Then you should supply them. Yep. You should never, ever apply supply references that you haven't talked to previously. You always need to ask the people who want to do it. And when they ask for references, I would always email those people your resume, your cover letter, and the position posting, and talk about some of the stuff that was talked about in the interview. And make sure that your references can address the skills that they're going to ask for. So I have references who would be great at talking about my training. But I also have references who would talk about my project management skills or about my creative skills. But those are different components, and they might not all be what my job that I'm applying for is asking for. So make sure that they can talk about the skills that are asked for in the job, and always thank them, whether they're called on or not.
Okay. One question is, do we need to indicate on our resume? I usually include the last line of references provided upon request, but this is no longer necessary. They're saying it in a question mark.
Yeah, it's not necessary. If they want references, they'll ask. And if you can't supply them, then good luck.
Okay. And then somebody says there's a one-page resume, okay?
Yep, if that encompasses your experience. If that's the best marketing tool, then do one page.
It says, can you answer the question about if the college name has changed? Do you list the updated name? I didn't
So
see
you
that.
can list the updated name and then in parentheses, is it AKA or previously known as?
Well, if the record is gonna, if the name of the new organization is gonna pull up the record, the old name, in my mind, wouldn't
But on
matter.
if they ask for proof of graduation, it would be the old name on the diploma.
Yep, and if they want to do research, yeah. I've never given anybody a copy of my diploma. I
Right,
have a
I don't
couple, I got a
either.
couple of degrees, but they asked for the transcript maybe, I don't know. The next question is, what is the difference between a 1-page and a 2-page resume? And I got like 2 or 3 more.
So
You got 2
one
minutes.
page, the only difference is whatever works best for marketing you. If you have had one job and you have 5 years of work experience, one page will probably cover it. Excuse me. If you've been in the job market longer and you have more skills and more things to do, then 2 pages. But don't go over 2.
Okay. Somebody is asking, oh, it went away. It scared me. I thought I hung up. They want to know when the next social media webinar is and where do they find it. I will look that date up and get back to that person directly.
Okay.
And you will
Okay.
find it on Career Force. The next person is somebody said they have oh, this is a private one. Okay. Somebody's asking about a mock interview. Please call. I'm gonna put the number in the chat really quickly here. 651. So for that person who's asking about the mock interview, call the number I just put in the chat, ask for Lana, and we'll work that out. We got 1 minute here. The next question said, what is the best way to title your CV for when you upload it? Your name, date, job, etc. So asking for the best way to put the title.
Yeah, I always put my last name, dot, the title of the job, and the date. But I don't, you have any
Somebody put in,
ideas?
no, that's fine. And then the next question is, what certificates do you include if not applicable to the job applying for?
None.
Okay. That's worried about the ageism. Somebody's worried about ageism, and their way around it is not giving too many dates.
Right. Or
Did you put a
information,
new,
right?
then it says, can you put somebody's asking about putting a new name in the parentheses. Okay, I think I'm all caught up. Because it's 11 o'clock.
Right. All right. So thank you very much for spending the last hour with us.